MC for the morning, and my first task is to introduce. Oh, I apologize. My first task is to, if you do not know, the restrooms are down the hall to the left. That was my first task. So my first other task is to introduce our superintendent of schools, Kelly Zimmerman. Kelly has been at the superintendent's office since July. Recently purchased a home in Dansville, and we really appreciate her optimism.
So I recently ran into a friend of mine who I graduated from Cornell High School with. So coming back to Dansville was a bit of a homecoming for me. And he joked that, I was wearing a Dansville t-shirt. Joked. He said, "How much do they have to pay you to come to Dansville?" I said, "I'm sorry, I bleed the red and black now, whether you like it or not." So here I am, and just thrilled to be here in this amazing community. I will be brief, and was asked just to welcome everybody here today. So formally, on behalf of our Board of Education, our school district, and the Foundation for Dansville Education, I'm honored to welcome you all to the 2025 Wall of Pride Induction Ceremony. This has been an inspiring culmination of Alumni Weekend. So thank you all for taking time out of your Sunday to be here with us. Today we gather at the heart of our celebration to recognize the truly outstanding achievements of our fellow alumni and community members. The Foundation for Dansville Education started in 2011 and has hosted this ceremony to highlight those who personify Mustang excellence. Over the years, the Foundation has graciously awarded more than 60 grants, supporting everything from STEAM initiatives in our schools, to our therapy dog program, to clubs activities, and most importantly, senior scholarships. The generosity of this group is amazing and could not be possible without people like you who come to support us. Together, we are a small but mighty rural school district nurturing creativity, confidence, compassion, and hope. And thanks to our shared commitment and dedicated volunteers, donors, and educators who make it all possible. To our honorees today, David Gilbert, Bob Glover, William Packard, and Kyle York, your remarkable contributions exemplify the very best of Dansville Central Schools. And I'm thrilled to continue to share your stories with our students today as shining examples of what is possible, what is achievable when you grow up in Dansville and graduate from Dansville Central Schools. To all of you here this morning, alumni, family, friends, sponsors, staff, community members, thank you for being part of this celebration and for helping us to uphold the legacy of Mustang Pride. Your presence today strengthens that legacy and continues to allow us to do our work in our shared mission. Following the ceremony, join us for a brief tour of our high school where you will continue to see firsthand how your support is helping to shape the next generation of our Mustangs. So with great pride and heartfelt appreciation, let us begin our celebration. Please join me in welcoming our MC, our master of everything, back to the stage, Jim McNeil.
I was going to try to play all this straight today, but those of you who know me, I can't do it. I may cover a couple things that Kelly just mentioned, typical administrator stepping on the teaching man's toes. But to move on, today in particular we do honor David Gilbert, Bob Glover, William C. Packard, and Kyle York. Incredible individuals who make the great community of Dansville even more to be proud of and boast about. Taking time to recognize the people who make us proud wouldn't be possible without the Foundation Board of Directors. Please stand and remain standing as I introduce you. And I suggest that we hold our applause until all have been introduced. That way we don't have that uncomfortable light applause for some and the great cheers for others. Our Board of Directors, Paul, Alioto, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Kim Birmingham. Our Dansville High School most recent alumni, Brianna Blair, Kim Derenbacher, Katie Infantino, Marilyn Robin, Sue Seiler. Ex officio members to be recognized, we've already met Superintendent Kelly Zimmerman, our Deputy Superintendent Tom Frazier. Sue Seiler provided me a list of things to stay away from. Tom Frazier's name was not on the list. We'll have more about Tom later. Director of Alumni Services, Marcia Miller. And thank you, Marcia, personally, for picking up my tab at Scobles this weekend. Appreciate it. Thank you, committee members, for all your efforts today and all year round. As Kelly mentioned, I'd like to take a moment and remind you that after our program to participate in the tour of our first floor and the new athletic facilities. The most recent pride of our facilities was in May. Dansville hosted the Section 5 Class C Track and Field Championships, which began with an incredible instrumental rendition of our national anthem by 4 Dansville student athletes. We hosted 26 schools that afternoon to rave reviews. Be very proud of our facilities here. For those of you who are in town for the Alumni Weekend, make sure you pick up one of those honk if you love Dansville alumni, if you love Dansville bumper stickers. I recently put one on my car, and just this morning I was driving up to St. Joe's for Mass. I stopped at the red light. I was thinking about my remarks. The gentleman behind me must have seen the light turn green before I did. The next thing I know, he was really showing his love for Dansville this morning. Then as I drove down 63, he again showed his love for Dansville and also told me that Dansville is #1. Also, take some time to drive around the Dansville area. Check out Foster Wheeler. Now, for you young people in the crowd, that is LNC Industrial Contractors. It's just past the Dunkin' Donuts drive-thru. There are some great things going on in Dansville. And dare I say, the foundation of education leads the way in getting the word out. Dansville has many, many successful people, past and present, who have contributed to a greater society, locally, across our country, and around the world. One who comes to mind, of course, is Claire Barton, who probably should be a member of the Wall of Pride. Current Wall of Pride members who are here with us today, please stand to be recognized. Kevin Maston, Jen Brushaver, and Dr. Bill Packard. Take some time to visit the Claire Barton statue in Church Park and look at the beautiful mural on Ocean Street. They're great works of art and very quickly have become local treasures. I was speaking to Mayor Haywood, a member of the Wall of Pride himself, about the mural. Of course, Barry beams with pride about the mural in his hometown. But he did remark to me that he remembers Claire Barton's hair being a little lighter. Check out the Gliders game if you have an opportunity. They're home Tuesday night. Just don't expect your name to be pronounced correctly if you're introduced on the PA. Our mission here today, we honor a business entrepreneur who, among his many contributions, worked to save an auto company from bankruptcy. We honor a man whose life's work has been protecting others. He's making me very nervous that he's standing over there watching. We honor an historian who tirelessly works to get the good word out about Dansville's rich past. And a writer who worked to ensure the proper use of sport, and most recently, worked for the proper care of the dead. 4 exceptional people who make Dansville proud. And at this time, to begin our official inductions, I invite Nancy Hilfrich to present David Gilbert.
My name name was Nancy Titus. When I met my to-be husband, it took me probably 6 months to figure out how to pronounce his name, and I have to keep reminding people it's Helfrich.
I was going to the Irish.
Good morning. I'm honored to tell you a bit about a person who might be something of a mystery to you. You may never have seen David Gilbert at a social gathering or run into him around town, but chances are very, very good that you have read or heard about Dansville's history through something David has written, compiled, or spoken about. David's had 3 books published: A Brief History of the Castle on the Hill, Dansville World War II Diary, and True Stories of Dansville. But even if you haven't read any of David's books, his writings can be found on the library website, the Village of Dansville website, the Dansville Historical website, and numerous articles that appeared over the years in our local papers and in the penny savers. The Dansville School website has buried somewhere in there, but you can find it. It took me a while. 19 pages of history and photos of the Dansville school system, researched by David and published by the class of 1995. You might have heard David's address about Clara Barton at last year's statue dedication in Church Park, or been to a program David has graciously presented for area organizations like the Women's Civic Club, the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, and the Historical Society. And now he is working on a 4th book where each of 100 chapters will cover an object in the museum that tells the evolution and the history and the growth of Dansville. Over the past few years, several of his chapters have shown up in the Dansville Historical newsletter. A little plug that any of you that are not members, speak to Marlene Mark. She will get you a membership form and tell you in 25 words or less why it's your duty to join us. Well, is this enough about what David's done? Yes, but it's not all. I didn't know of Dave's other talents until a few years ago when somebody told me that David has a lovely singing voice. Why? But anyone familiar with the Presbyterian Church knows David is a lifetime member and a director of the choir for 34 years, almost as long as Margaret Hondelink, and she held that honor. She was also inducted into the Wall of Pride last year. David has also led the handbell choir for a few decades or so, and recently the handbell choir has gone on the road, and you might have seen them at this year's Lions Club variety show. And then there's the quirky side of David. He loves contests. He put together a scavenger hunt for the Dansville Historical once, and it was before I even joined, but I'm still finding clues in sporadic places around the museum. Plus, he holds regular trivia contests at the Presbyterian Church. All sorts of contests such as name the year, did this event happen before or after, multiple choice, and so on. His contests are always well thought out and amazingly interesting. But most of all, David is loyal and constant and respected. He has spent his adult life giving to his family, whom he loves dearly, to his church, and to the Historical Society. At our historical board meetings, David's voice is the one we all listen to and we all take seriously. Here's my favorite story about David. It was the time when we were co-hosting an exhibit with artworks along with the local Red Cross. We announced that we would take several large, beautifully framed oil portraits of the Jackson family members from the museum, and we would place them in the artworks exhibit on Main Street. Then we got a public comment telling us how horrible an idea that it was and how the portraits should never be allowed to leave the museum. Since I was chairing this venture, I was beside myself. I brought up at the meeting the question of whether or not we should go ahead. Without hesitation, David quietly and firmly stated, our job is to share history. More people will see these portraits because they are displayed in a store, and that's what we need to do. The portraits were displayed, and to this day, I remember how beautifully they looked on the wall at out-of-place storefront. David is a treasure, and all of Dansville is lucky to have him serving us with his talents. Thank you, David.
At this time, we invite David Gilbert forward as our first inductee to the 2025 Wall of Pride.
Thank you very much. Before I start thanking people, I shall point out the obvious, that I have a speech prepared. I will never make it into anybody's Wall of Pride through my abilities in off-the-cuff speaking. In church, the last thing I ever want to hear is, David, would you like to lead us in prayer? For the record, the answer is no, not really. Plus, having everything written down ahead of time means I won't go over my allotted time of 40 minutes. First, I'd like to thank all the politicians and business leaders of the early 1980s who so badly messed up the economy that I found myself unable to find a job and consequently in need of something to do. That something turned out to be delving into my fascination with local history, thanks largely to two people. The first was Richard Eads, whose high school elective course on Dansville's history touched off a spark in my brain and made me realize that learning about history was more than just memorizing names and dates so you could pass the finals. History, I came to realize, wasn't just about stuff that happened someplace else. It was also about stuff that you could step out your door and see with your own two eyes. History, in fact, could be fascinating and fun. My other great debt, of course, was to town and local historian Wilford J. Rober, to whom we all owe so much. I've been researching and writing about Dansville now for some 40 years, but I'm still a ways away from catching up to Woods Rober. When I was doing my initial research with the lofty goal of writing the first comprehensive history of Dansville since 1902, I naturally leaned heavily on Rober's writings, both in book form and his multitude of newspaper articles. And when I finished scouring the historical collection at the library, and here I offer a side thank you to all the helpful library workers over the years, especially Teresa Deering, another person to whom we all owe so much, I screwed up the courage to ask Woods if I could poke through the archives at the town hall. Not only did he say yes, he handed me the spare key and allowed me to rummage through the treasure trove unsupervised. Eventually, the shackles of gainful employment did beckon, and I had to set the project aside for a few years. But the approaching 1995 Dansville Bicentennial got me back into it, and the result was Dansville Turns 200, my weekly newspaper column that ran from 1992 to 1995, and which I was told may have resulted in the sales of a few more papers. Alas, 1992 was also the year that Wilford Rober passed away, so I never really got the chance to prove to him that his faith in me was just right. While we're on the subject, I'd like to thank all the people who worked at the late limited Genesee Country Express for their many years of support. I do not envy future historians aiming to chronicle the goings-on in Dansville after the year 2022. They definitely have their work cut out for them. Not only did the paper run my articles, including two of the tales that eventually wound up in my book, True Stories of Dansville, but they gave me free access to their morgue of bound copies of both the Express and the Breeze, which was tremendously helpful in my research for the book Dansville War Diary. So many thanks to Peter Vogt, Jeff Miller, Jasmine Willis, and all the others whose names my faulty memory wasn't able to conjure up. Then there were the many people who supported me at the Dansville Area Historical Society, and I probably would need 40 minutes to give them all props. But I'll single out two. Those of you who knew him far better than I did don't need to be told what a remarkable person Robert Hampshire was. Back in the 80s, when my affiliation with the museum had just begun, he and I spent many an evening rummaging through closets and shelves, opening boxes that contained who knew what, cataloging acquisitions that had gathered dust for years, which in the pre-computerized era meant filling out thousands of index cards. It's a chore that can be both fun and tiring, and no one knows that better than Nancy Elfrick, who's been doing much the same thing and much more besides for the past several years, and who's probably devoted more time toward the museum and the Historical Society than anyone since Doc Hampshire. She also volunteered to say nice things about me today, and for that I am deeply grateful. Thanks also to her husband and current board president, Jim Elfrick, and his many predecessors, including Jerry Waite, Jeff Miller, Al Hawk, Dan Rover, Jerry Rover, and so on back through the organization's 60-plus years. And a special thanks to fellow Wall of Pride member Jane Schreiber, who knows at least as much about Dansville history as I do, and to whom I've often turned to fill in my own gaps of knowledge. I'd also like to thank my two families. There's my family, my mother, my late father, and my three brothers. And despite what TV shows and movies would like us to think, it is possible for four siblings to make it into their 60s and still all be on speaking terms. And then there's my spiritual family at the Presbyterian Church, where I spent the last 35 years auditioning for the choir director's job. Last but not least, I'd like to thank the village of Dansville itself for being such an endlessly interesting place to write about. I suppose the writers of local history like to believe that their particular community is at least a little bit more special than most. I certainly do, and in my case I happen to be right. For a village whose population has rarely risen far above 5,000 inhabitants, Dansville has amassed a surprisingly dense legacy, sometimes with an impact that extends far beyond Dansville itself. Anyone who has eaten cereal for breakfast, nourished their plants with liquid fertilizer, or relied on the Red Cross for assistance, can thank Dansville for its part in their creation. Our 230-year cast of characters include eccentrics, con men, crooks, and even a murderer or two, but also humanitarians, innovators, social reformers, captains of industry, civic leaders, physicians and first responders, and all those heroes from all those wars. It has been my pleasure and privilege to tell you some of their stories, and I don't plan on stopping anytime soon. Thank you very much.
I apologize. Lindsay, if you can come back up, we would like to have the official photo of the plaque presentation. If you could please come forward. Doctor's over there, so. And thank you, Nancy, and David. Congratulations to David Gilbert, our newest member of the Wall of Pride. And now I invite Bob Glover to come forward.
you back there?
Gotcha.
David Gilbert, I ran into Gilbert the golf course the other day and I accused him of being new and he denied it. Like you, I taught the block of history when I was in school. 7th grade history, one of my friends might remember, John Ordway. We actually had a course in New York State history. And I ended up being a history major. And I intended to teach history and coach on the side and turn out to be the other way around. Thanks Rich Tyler back there for being brave enough to try to videotape everything. I haven't given a speech in 25 years, I think. But this is a unique challenge just because I was told by doctors it would be impossible for me to do this. They also told me it would be impossible to play in a golf tournament yesterday, but I did. I've been diagnosed with early Parkinson's, and I have trouble with speaking and my focus. So please bear with me. Good morning, Dansville. This is it, my last hurrah. Here goes. My life has been an improbable journey, starting as a skinny, short, freckled Bobby Glover from Little Dansville, second youngest in my grade, beginning school at the bottom of the heap, passing the first grade on probation only because Mom begged the school to give me a chance. To rise from the lowest level class, we had 5 levels, I was number 5, Packers number 1, of course. Show off. To the highest level, with Packard, and to the National Honor Society, with Packard. Finally made it big. The Dean's List in college, only to be drafted to the horrors of the Vietnam War. Assigned as a top secret assistant to the commanding general at Phu just a marathon run from North Vietnam. It was not a nice place to be. At the Army, I applied for the athletic director's job at the Rome Y. They were looking for someone more experienced. I said, I'll take the job for no pay until you make the hire. Just give me a room at the Y. The deal was made. My foot was in the door as the interim athletic director. I determined to start a running-based fitness class. Flyers were sent promoting the free class. Nobody signed up. Not one. What to do? I called every board member, pleading it was their duty to support the goal by participating in the class themselves. Intrigued and amused by my challenge, they all showed up. And they loved it, and they signed up for the program. So guess what? They had to hire me. Knew I was an incredible success. In 1975, Alexander Melleby, a legend in life fitness, shocked me with a job offer. He was taking over a fitness program for all the Ys in New York City and wanted me to be his main man. He was offering one of the top fitness positions in the country. But I didn't know anybody else, and he said he wouldn't take no for an answer. I was stuck. I accepted the huge challenge, working out of the huge West Side YMCA on Central Park, the largest Y in the country with 5,000 members. The first thing I found out was the monthly rent for my car was more than the apartment I had in Rome. He ordered me to infiltrate the New York Roadrunners. Friend of law is up to something. Running is the future of fitness. 1975 he said that. The change from running-based fitness at the Y was a huge success, overcoming resistance from the piano-based calisthenics crowd, who petitioned to have me fired. One of our Y members was an excellent runner and a funny guy. He called friend of me Barnum and Bailey for our promotion of running. We became good friends and running partners. He went on to become the zany comedian, Robin Williams. Speaking of celebrities, I met many. In 2003, I ran with a billionaire rapper. His manager wanted me to coach him for the New York City Marathon as part of a TV series. Off we went on a 6-mile run, surrounded by black vans filled with big dudes with guns. The rapper barely talked, but he did ask where I was from. I said, Dansville. And he said, where's that? As usual, I said, well, it's south of Rochester. And he said, where's that? So I said, it's south of Canada. You know where that is? As we neared the finish, I saw he had a large crowd from the hood. He was potting, a surprised friend. But I easily outran him to the finish and ran home as fast as I could for the safety of my life. Who was that infamous rapper? You may have heard of Sean Diddy Combs? I invited him to come, but he said he couldn't get away. In 1977, Life Fitness class member and best-selling author Jack Shepard made a proposal, a book based on my program. I lobbied for a running rather than fitness book. We signed with Viking Penguin as the first ever running book signed by a major publisher. One day while running with my member Jim Fix, I hope nobody heard of him. He said he was writing a fitness book to come out in June. I told him of my running theme book to come out the previous April. He smiled. And then it happened. What a surprise. New York City Marathon morning in October 1977, she had the New York Times for the complete book of running. The author, my suddenly former friend Jim Fix, who stole my idea and moved up his release date by 8 months to beat me out. I was pissed and I still am. The Runner's Handbook was released at the April 1978 Boston Marathon, kicked off with my interview on Good Morning America from the starting line, and a 2-page feature in Us Magazine. To boost sales, Jack and I went on an incredibly intense 8-week publicity tour across the country. You think a trip across the country would be fun? All we saw was airports and taxi cabs, and radio stations, newspaper stations, or what do you call them. We sold over 100,000 books the first month, and over 1 million overall. My second book, The Competitor's Handbook, also sold well. Both went into revision copies twice. It's basically 6 books at 600 pages each. The Runner's Handbook became the #1 bestseller for trade paperbacks in all categories, not just sports. New York City bookstores had both books, Glover and Fix, and huge displays in the windows, and a stack as tall as me, side by side, at the checkouts. It was madness. I was so stunned, I never took a photo to prove it. You have to believe me. There's even a display for my books at the Dansville Library. And guess who set it up several years ago? The library's Marsha Hemmer. In 1978, I decided to go for it, start my own business, Robert H. Glover and Associates Incorporated. I started running classes in partnership with the Rotary Club. It's a bold idea at the time with few coaches other than the school track team. Starting with 23 beginners, we soon grew to 6 levels, training in Central Park. Also, we became the official training program for the New York City Marathon. We grew to over 4,000 runners a year, several hundred every night. There's nothing like it in the world, in the world media, that no one's stupid enough to do it. I ran the program for 37 years, with Shai joining me for 25. We sold our business for a considerable amount. I never ran another step again, turning to golf. One night, an unfit looking man came in and said late for class. I was about to reject him, as we were more than full up. Then I saw his name on the application and did a double take. You ready? Bernard McFadden Jr. Huh? There's nothing in many books on one of Dansville's most famous citizens about a junior. Nancy Halfrick Search said he was baffled with the news, denied he existed. Well, he knew all about Dansville, about his father. Perhaps he could be the subject of the next David Gilbert book. There you go. To promote women's right to compete in an Olympic marathon, I started the elite Nike-sponsored all-women's team in Atlanta. We won many local, national, and world titles. My favorite moment as a coach was at the 1984 Women's Olympic Marathon Trials in Olympia, Washington. What a celebration. It would be the first time women were allowed to run that distance at the Olympics. My team had 10 women qualified, and Atlanta won the national title at that historic race. My friend Joan Benoit Samuelson won the race and went on to win the gold medal at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympic Games. Go Joni. In 1990, the city asked us for a model program to help improve race relations. We developed City Sports for Kids, a track program designed as a melting pot for kids ages 5 to 13 of different races, religions, economic status, and skill levels. Eventually, we had 300 kids per session, 3 times a year, for a very popular program. By the time I ran past retirement age, the large programs became more and more of a challenge, and our aging parents back home needed us more and more. I retired in December 2015. The Sunday New York Times ran a full-page story on my career. Another Dansville man was featured in the New York Times in 2001. He's with us today. I hereby nominate David Monbury, the railroad tycoon, for next year's Wall of Pride. Then came the journey back home, returning as a stranger after 50 years away to retire to a relaxed life of golf and community service. Well, that was the plan. We wanted to live in Dansville, instead we fell in love with a huge pre-Civil War home with a large landscape yard, 3 barns, and Shelley's collection of rescued cats and dogs. In the village of Canasteel, next to where she grew up. It's a dream home. But I spent a lot of time in my hometown. It's the alumni weekend. My research in Dansville cemeteries, and camaraderie, and Scovilles, and Rayburn that meant most to me after returning home after so many years away. My heart is here in Dansville. It's where I grew up with a solid foundation for future success, with many fine teachers and coaches and role models. Dansville is where the two critical events that happened senior year gave me the confidence to strive to excel. Joining the big guns, Bill Packard and Bob Knapp, the National Honor Society, and winning the county championship track. Thank you, Dansville. I'm very pleased my friend Bill Packard Jr., our class valedictorian, made it back home to honor his dad. I'm proud to join Bill Jr. and Bill Sr. in the Wall of Pride. Perhaps someday my dad will join us. I bought my first car for Mr. Packard, like many others. Mr. Packard rivaled my dad for having the gift of gab. Thanks, Marcia Henry Miller. The job she has done as alumni director and alumni weekend is outstanding. I have one issue with you, Marcia. It's not right that you live in Buffalo Bills territory and cheer for the Minnesota Vikings. Not right. Thanks to the ownership of Scopus for giving me a home away from home. Kyle Tracy, Phil Roca, Tim Anderson, Bruce Wade back there. Not everyone is aware of this, but our historic golf course, established in 1898, was in danger of being shut down. The new ownership of this team was not only saved Rayburn, but was taking it to new levels. Terry and Robin Musher, Kyle Tracy, Kevin Rover, Bruce Wade back there. Denny Hartman recently retired as manager of Rayburn after 16 years. He's very kind and welcomed me home as a 68-year-old rookie at golf. Thanks, Denny. Give us way over there. By the way, did you hear that Denny had a hole in one last week at Smith? Did someone say drinks are in Denny?
Yeah.
Some highlights of growing up in Dansville. Baseball was king. Little League felt like the big leagues. We had a home run fence, a hot dog stand, and a press box over the backstop with Bill Cox announcing the game. Look at Dansville. I remember how excited I was to finally hit one over that fence. By the time I reached second base and my home run shot, the umpire stopped me and informed me the ball went over the fence, but it bounced over. I still have nightmares about it. Summers, I would go to Creamer's Park. Who remembers that?
Yo.
An empty lot on Clinton Street next to Chris Plum's house, where there's always enough kids for sale on baseball. You don't find that anymore. Where I trade baseball cards or play wiffle ball with my brother and our neighbors out back, Professor Ray Giuliani and Mike King, your former neighbor. I proudly wore this 1950s hat for the Protectors, my Little League team.
We can't get that.
Who can forget our annual trip to Roseland Park, where they turned us loose with unlimited rice, hot dogs, and sodas? Am I right, Billy? My first coach, Big Jim Quinlan. His son's Tom and Bill were my teammates. Billy Quinlan. I gift you this Protectors hat. You can usually remember your dad and your big brother Tom, who we sadly lost in December. Or he certainly would be able to move us. Tom was one of my favorites. I started my coaching career in Dansville. Went to college, I co-coached with my brother in the Fireman Rapido team in the Babe Ruth League to a 14-0 record. Years later, at a housewarming party in Castile, a Wall of Pride John Shane started talking smack, as he was known to do. I reminded him of that undefeated team, and he said, "No way, Shea Lions won." I grabbed the huge championship trophy off the shelf and I showed it to John. He looked it over and exclaimed, "Nice trophy, where'd you buy it?" Speaking of baseball, I was there, along with most of Dansville, for this historic game that produced the greatest win in Dansville baseball history. My brother Don is in the other Wall of Fame for sports. In 1967, at the old Red Wing Stadium, the lefty dominated with a 2-hit shutout and 15 strikeouts to give the Mustangs their only Section 5 title in baseball. As it turned out, 6 of those mighty Mustangs are with us today, so honor them. Please stand and give a wave as I call your name. Don Glover, Mike Payne, Rod Berger, Danny Layden, Mike Bell, and driving to the winning run, Billy Stroh! Junior year, I gave up my career as a good field, no-hit shortstop, and signed up for track. I surprised everyone, including myself, by sprinting past several runners. I won't mention it, including Packard. To earn the last ribbon they gave out, 5th place. This was the first time I ever won anything. Senior year, they added 2 miles for the first time, longer the better for me. The counties were tied with York with one event to run, the 2 mile. Al Burdick was the starter. We're set. All flipped the runners except for me and the York Ace. We stood there looking at each other because he wanted to follow me and I'll kick me at the end. And I didn't want it to happen. Well, as you can imagine, Burdick was screaming at us as they stood there looking at each other. The rest of the field was already at the first turn. I refused to move until he did. Finally, he gave in and we got going. We easily caught him past the field and in fact lapped half of them. I surprised the Yorkie by making a daring move with half a mile to go and won by a large margin. This is one of the greatest moments of my life. I was a county champion. And this win paved the way to my future career. Thank you, Dansville. By the way, 3 members of that winning team of 63 and 64 are here with us. Dave Monitor, Bill Packard, and Dave Kiefer, who was 1 mile champ. At school the next day, they called me the marathon man. Coming in how hard it must be to run 8 times around that track. What would they have thought if they known that 15 years later I'd raced 200 laps of the track? At Queens College in 90-degree heat for 5th place at the Metropolitan 50-mile championship, or raced up the Empire State Building, 8 miles up Mount Washington, or run 30 marathons, coming close to qualifying for Olympic trials. These accomplishments were not due to superior talent, but from training very hard, and on race day, spitting in the eye of the tiger. Nobody from my family had gone to college, so I didn't have a clue about it. Dad said we didn't have the money, go join the Army. I was heartbroken, he knew it. Soon after, Dad told me a Wall of Pride, Tim Shea, boss of Shea's Trucking, wanted to talk to me. Me? What'd I do? Tim was a big name in Dansville. Longtime president of the Board of Education, Dad's boss. And nervous, he walked into his office. Tim asked if I wanted to go to college bad enough to work hard or something. I said, yeah. Didn't know what I was getting into. I started as stuff for the guys that unloaded and loaded trucks for the night shift. Brutal work, right, Denny Herman? 11 at night as long as 11 the next morning. I never would have achieved what I did if not for Tim and John Shea's support. Thank you, Dansville. Before I go to college, the guidance teacher paid no attention. At least he pointed out some college catalogs. I skimmed through until I saw photos showing runners racing through the woods. This Russellville State. That's for me, sign me up. I said on Apple only last week ago. I never visited until first day of school. Worked out well. I earned Dean's List as a history major, ran well in the cross-country track teams. The race with 3 females every meal, being a member of the most popular friend on campus, I was living the highlight. And then it happened. Teachers were exempt from the draft until my senior year. The thought hung over me like a dark cloud. 2 months after graduating college, I was drafted into an unpopular order. Here comes the hard part. Health challenges came close to preventing me from enjoying alumni weekend. I began to feel tongue-tied and my voice became hoarse, making speaking difficult as it is now. I had problems with my balance and even walking more than a block. My legs and arms often jumped and started carrying a cane. What was happening? All within a week, I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation, the potentially crippling severe cervical spinal stenosis, and then the life-changing Parkinson's disease, which was confirmed with advanced brain imaging just last week. I was told it would be impossible to play at the alumni golf tournament, impossible to give a speech. Those odds inspired me. I offered to withdraw, but Marcia refused me, nagging me over and over again, saying, you can do it. Thanks, Marcia, for being a nag. You're good at it. Real good at it. I'm fortunate to have personal guidance from the chairman of the Michael J. Fox Foundation for Parkinson's, who was a good friend of mine, was his daughter. He will at some point hook me up with Michael himself. I enlisted the top spine surgeon in New York City that works with lead athletes. I faced a choice: immediate surgery and defer this honor for another year, or fight to prepare my body and mind to pull it off now. I trained hard for 6 months for this weekend, pushing myself from walking a block to being able to walk 9 holes braver and push my car to see me out there. My first attempt at this speech was pretty bad, but I was committed. I practiced this speech many times, 300. To train my mind, my voice, my mouth, which were under attack. It was self-speech therapy. I had to train my lips, my tongue, to be comfortable with what I was going to say. It's not easy to stand here and force my mouth and vocal cords to spit out these words. But my life isn't about what I can do, but what I will do with what years I have left. Right, Dr. Packer? My impressed spine surgeon stated, surgery can wait, alumni Lincoln can enjoy it. Surgeons wouldn't fall. Singling impossible 2 months back, I played the golf tournament yesterday with my classmates, and I tuned up for it recently by shooting a 41 at age 78. That first spine surgeon said I'd never play golf again. I fired his ass. Mark Twain famously said, reports of my death are greatly exaggerated. And there's Yogi Berra, who said it ain't over until it's over. Well, it's not over, folks. Now I finish with my other leg. My plan was to be a history teacher and coach on the side. It turned out to be the other way around. This is where I get back to Dansville, the Dansville Cemetery Project. I started this with Dad. There's a need to record history through burials, as local cemeteries do not have detailed records easily available to the public. Dan Knapp is my partner in the project. She does all the website stuff at Cannon Hill site, as well as helping taking photos of stones, researching and communicating with the many requests for help we get from all over the country. She makes me look good. Hey, First Lady of Washington, give us a wave right here. Where's your wave? We've taken over 20,000 tombstone photos, putting every stone in Green Mountain Holy Cross and Forest Lawn. So if you're going to have a stone there, put it up quick so we can take a picture. And record over 60,000 names in our database, mostly Dansville related, all available free to the public. Feel free to contact us with help for your family history. I can help some of those out there. Pioneer Park. For years, Dad replaced flags at Greenmount on Memorial Day. He put one way out of Service Road. He wondered why. I said, let's go take a look. We brushed aside leaves and the weeds and found a dozen old stones strewed there. One huge one near that flag. With bare hands, Dad kept digging at nearly 90 years old, until the number 1797 became visible. Research by the infamous Wall of Pride West Rover determined that the first death and burial in Dansville was in, guess what, 1797. Captain Nathaniel Porter, Revolutionary War hero. What a disgrace. His stone was thrown in the weeds. He'd been buried in a cemetery. Well, in 1888, the Neighborhood Beautification Committee plowed under and carted away all evidence of that cemetery, including the massive historic Porter stone. Dad would have none of it. He's determined to do right for our early settlers. We called a meeting with Wall of Pride James Shriver, a movement that became the beautiful Pioneer Park. We erected Captain Porter's stone at the top of Section L, complete with American Legion military ceremony. Recently, the Historical Society requested that the other old stones tossed in the weeds be saved, including for Thomas Macklin. Another disgrace. Dansville's first teacher, stone in the weeds. Thanks to the town for displaying them along the road at the top of Section SS by the brick house. You can see them there. Did you know there's a Major League Baseball player who lived and is buried in Dansville? John Sullivan's stone at Holy Cross is shaped like a baseball, stitches and all. On the back, he lists the teams he played and coached for, including winning 2 World Series rings with the Toronto Blue Jays and as the bullpen coach. The front of his stone proclaims, "Steroid 3!" What a way to go. Ray Bigliotti gifted the foundation in 1966 Detroit Tigers John Sullivan baseball card, which was auctioned off yesterday. Thanks, Ray. Did you know that a Dansville native played in the NBA? Big Jim Quinlan. He started basketball for the Mustangs after Canisius College and played briefly in the NBA for the Rochester Royals. He's also Holy Cross. We head for the finish. The stone for John Shea, Mr. Dansville, is at the top of Greenmount, Section E, next to his parents. The inscription on it reads, "Those who give will never be poor." That was John. I enjoy helping others, whether it's a coach, writer, genius, donor, or friend. The act of giving is a reward in itself. Wow. This is a very, very, very impressive event. Thanks to Marsha, Katie, and all those involved. Little Dansville came up big. Go Mustangs, and thank you, Dansville.
Photo of the plaque presentation. thank you, Shelley, for presenting Bob. And congratulations to Bob Glover, newest member. You're always surprised at this event. First of all, Bob, when someone asks you, where's Dansville? Even a guy from Westville, New York says, where's that? The center of the universe. Secondly, I didn't really think I'd hear Albertic's name here today, but we did. Next, we have Graham Frazier presenting William C. Packard. Accepting for William C. Packard will be Dr. Bill Packard.
Good morning. Not sure how I follow Bob, but I'll do my best. Thank you. William Packard was known as Bill, Dad, Grandpa, and Pop. But to many, he was known as the man who sold me my first car. When I think of Grandpa, so many things come to mind, but hard work and family top the list. Bill was born in a small town in central Pennsylvania and grew up on a family farm. Growing up as the only son meant long hours and hard work for my grandfather. He developed his work ethics at a young age and carried it through his entire life. After serving in the Pacific during World War II, Bill moved to Dansville to work for his uncle, Charles Weaver. Grandpa started at the bottom, helping in the shop, washing cars, sweeping the floors. As the years went by, Bill moved up the ranks to finally running the family business. Running the family business meant making decisions, taking care of employees, and taking care of the customers. Nothing meant more to my grandfather than treating people right. He believed that employees were the backbone of the business. He cherished them like they were family, and he treated them as such. Nothing made Bill happier than delivering a Thanksgiving turkey to each of the employees. He loved knowing that all his family would have a full Thanksgiving table. He treated the customers with the same compassion. The stories of Grandpa trading beef, diamonds, gold, and countless other items towards the purchase of a vehicle or service were countless. Bill worked tirelessly, often behind the scenes, for the community of Dansville. He used position in business and in various community organizations to get to his end goal of making Dansville a better place. Grandpa often said that he was truly blessed by his life in Dansville and wanted others to benefit in the same way. But Bill Packard's grandkids, we were the truly blessed ones. We enjoyed Grandpa when he was away from business and had more time to share with us. From the Sunday dinners on Seward Street to the summers at the family cottage in Canada. Grandpa taught us so many things. My grandfather loved nothing more than cooking dinner over a campfire, roasting marshmallows, taking us kids on endless boat rides, playing cards, board games. And by the way, this cottage did not have electricity for about 4 or 5 years, so many to get, we were playing under the lantern. Teaching us to swim and water ski, and to some of us even learning how to drive a car. Every time we walked into Grandpa's house, he would tell us, sit down, have a drink, stay a while. I remember going out to dinner with him, with Grandpa, and he would always say, order whatever you want. You can pick anything from the menu. He always wanted us to enjoy our time with him. I myself treasured the time we spent together, watching high school basketball games, fishing, and most importantly, hunting. I remember I shot my first turkey. I immediately drove to his house. It was before 7 in the morning, but it didn't stop Grandpa from running out of his house in his bathrobe, jumping up and down and celebrating with me. My successes were also his successes. I realize now that everything Grandpa did for our family and for this community, he did with hard work and love. He gave all he could every day never slowing down, he never took no for an answer. The life lessons he taught me have guided me to where I am now, and there's no doubt in my mind that I would not be the person I am today without having Bill Packer in my life, and I have to thank my God. At this time, I'd like to introduce my uncle, Dr. William Packard, to accept the honor on behalf of my grandfather, William Packard.
Can you all hear back there?
Yes.
Well enough?
Yep.
Okay. If I'm gonna have to do this, someone better listen. First of all, I'd like to thank all of you just merely for being here. My dad would have been so pleased to see this kind of turnout and just to be recognized. He loved the community so much, more than I knew even. And he would just cherish today. Modestly walked out, and that's sort of weird probably, but it would have been his time. I'd like to thank Graham for introducing me and doing the outline. David Vance for one of the letters that made support for the recommendation. And especially Amy Wells, who just did a heck of a lot of work getting information together. I'd also like to thank Maddie. Maddie, would you stand up? This is Maddie. Maddie's my second. If I pass out, Maddie comes up and finishes. How many of you remember Ma Hinkins? Great, yeah. There's half of you have no clue who Ma Hinkins was, but the other half. I think that was our English teacher senior year, and she tried to make it closer from a bunch of Philistines, I think, and some of us succeeded, I'm not sure. But John Higgins made it 3 words first, and one of the quotes was on the Regents exam that year was, "The child is the father of the man." If you're going to understand anybody and who they are and where they came from, you have to know about their childhood. My father's childhood certainly shaped him. First of all, I have to remember that he came from a long line of Packards, all of whom were, as my mom put it, obscenely obsessed with the name William. My mother had her choice. It wouldn't have been me for William, I know that. And I think perhaps my wife indeed might change that too. There was a guy named William Napoleon Packard in the 17th century, and after that there were like William after William after William. And then suddenly somebody had stuck Jerome in. So we have one Jerome in the midst of all these three centuries of Williams. And then subsequently, a nice name, William Beardsley, William Joel, William Lloyd. William Lloyd was my granddad. William Lloyd, does anybody remember Vance Packard? Vance Packard was a social commentator, and an economist, and a writer. And Vance wrote The Wastemaker, which was the first mention of planned obsolescence in furniture and things. In refrigerators that go out of repair after 12 years instead of 25. Anyway, Vance had a chapter in one of his books, and it was autobiographical, and he mentioned my grandpa, William Lloyd. He said, cover it from Eddie's ears, please. He said, William could be a real son of a bitch. Yeah, he was a political person in Bradford County, Pennsylvania, and he may have been the only Democrat in the whole damn county. But that was my grandpa. My grandpa was not the kindest man, and the talk of being difficult was absolutely true. talking to my father, like so many fathers in that period, they didn't say much about growing up. They didn't say much about growing up, didn't they say much about the war. And I only talked to my dad about my growing up, his growing up one time. And all I could glean from that conversation was that in high school you pole vaulted 10.5 feet with a bamboo pole into a sawdust pit. Okay, that's good. I did find out something I didn't know before, that at 15 years old, he fell in love with a blonde farm girl, and they spent some time in the barn in the haymow. He unfortunately was whipped on a regular basis by his dad. Father used the reins from the horse and the mules they plowed with, and did not spare the rod. I think that shaped him more than anything. I think Dad never got over the fact that maybe he wasn't quite as good as he should have been. Maybe that was what drove him going through the years. Maybe that's what drove him to be as generous as he was in the end. I have to thank him for never having abused candy or I, ever. And also for not passing on that legacy of abuse. That's a legacy that's easily passed on generation to generation. Never was. And I think Brandon did a pretty good job. He married my mom in 1944 that just strictly and quickly ran out to war in the South Pacific. He was in the Philippines, he was an engineer and fighting engineers, and he helped rescue the people who finally made their way out of the Philippines on a long march. He spoke only once in the war. And one time for that too, and that was in 1976 when I was fully grown. And he appeared in Australia. Grabbed my mom and said, "We're going to Australia." I was in Australia for the summer. He just turned up. I did things like that once in a while. We went out that night. Mom got bored. We took her back to the hotel, and we went to the pub. And maybe the beer or two loosened his lips a little bit. He talked about the war. I only said 3 things I really remember. One was talked about a Marine being killed as he landed on the Philippines, literally cut in half by gunfire. And he seemed to be, just found the war totally abhorrent. He found it so abhorrent that when he went to see Saving Private Ryan, he got up and left. And then he told me later, he said, 6 or 8 people got out, all his age, who just could not bear to see the landing on D-Day. He did do something interesting in the war, and a trip over a cruise ship to the Philippines. He was a hell of a card player. And he played poker all the way to the Philippines. This gave him a lot of time to play poker. He made about $40,000. Now, I probably would have done that harder. But what happened, he couldn't sell it 5,000 back. So he gave money to all his little friends. He said, "Send this to your wife, have her keep 1,000, and send this on to my wife." I think my mom got 6,000. That didn't work out so well. Came to Dansville with my mom, and as Graham explained, helped take the business over and slowly incorporated Graham's dad into the business. Me, I wasn't really interested in the car business. Heck, my favorite anyway car is something run by mice and paper clips and rubber bands. And I couldn't do a car and save my life. At least Graham would do it. He saw the business as a family. He really, truly did. And that family included the like of Art Jacobs, Jim Jacobs, Bobby Moore, Graham and Graham. But my favorite, and his favorite, was Jerry. Jerry was like a brother to him, perhaps more than that. take care of the inventory, which I hated. Like, God, all those damn nuts and bolts and things. And paint ceiling the bottom, too. So I'm pretty sure he was trying to push me away from that business. And it was a good thing. It was life. He got much better help. I think I had a whole bunch of stuff, but I really ran kind of explaining the business here. And I thought I might just explain a couple of the things that he did that I didn't even know about. He was a pretty generous man, and if you talk to the people that he interviewed, they all really use that word, generous. What I remember the first time his generosity, I must have been 5 or 6 years old. It was at Christmas when we all got the measles. My sister and I both had the measles. And yeah, my favorite picture, my favorite idea. My favorite idea that year was 1954, and my sister, I have a photo of her in her underwear bottoms with 2 6-guns stuck in her underwear, and she was really cute. But aside from that photo, it was the same Christmas. He took us out in the car and took the 15 turkeys. And took 15 turkeys and we delivered them all over town to make sure that church families had turkeys. And that became a ham one year, or a bicycle one year, or whatever. But that was a precedent for the rest of our lives. His life and our life, Scott's love for our practice. We gathered up hot dogs at football games. The ones that were left, all hot dogs were flipped and being used. And they take them around after the games and look at them. Nice things, small, quiet things. Offered cars to scouts and churches to utilize in their trips. Me and my mom funded 2 scholarships in Mexico for $2,000 each, which were given out for art and technology. And they were given out each year until the money ran out. 2 more things. One, did my father ever give anybody here a book about Lee Iacocca? Yeah. Lee Iacocca was a CEO of Chrysler, and Chrysler was in the dumps. They were about to go bankrupt. And we got hired. My father got to know pretty well. They were on a strategy team to put it all together to make sure they didn't go bankrupt. And then afterwards, he thought he was a genius. He bought like 36 books, 36 autobiographies of Lee Iacocca. Who gave to anybody who would take it? The question was, did anybody read it? I'm not so sure about that. But he did like Lee a lot, and in fact, he liked Chrysler a lot. And Howard Berry, Howard, you stand up. I think my father got a hold of Howard one day and said, Howard, would you like some good advice? And he said, buy Chrysler stock. And what did you do, Howard? My father did buy it. My father took every cent we had in the savings account, bought everything he could of Chrysler stock, and that probably is what made him as wealthy as he was finally. But I don't think anybody else read the book or bought the stock. A couple things that were funny. Graham reminds me of my father's nickname among the school kids was Summer. When you went in our house, the original house, you were like 10 feet away from your bedroom. And if you wanted to take a girl there or a guy there, you didn't, they could get up, be in there before you could move. So we all would be downstairs. And when it was time for someone to go home, my father, he'd take his foot on the bed, thump the floor, and they didn't know what's time to leave. The other story I like, my father had a close teeth. And property like your life. Don't do that, no matter what. And I'm sure he told you that, like, too. And one day we were driving over to Mount Forest. There was an ice cream stand, I don't know if it's there, there's still been an ice cream stand next to the Mount Forest Dam where you buy ice cream. Does anybody remember that stand? All right. Anyway, so we pull up the ice cream stand, and we had a new car, but it wasn't a new car, it was our new car. And we pulled in, stopped, and up and down, it's this crazy old food. Pulled up next to us in a regular pickup, opened the door, and found this nasty hole in our dad's door. Father, well, I've never seen you really get angry. Anything like that, I've never seen you. He jumped out of the car. Oh my God. He grabbed the guy by the shirt. He said, how dare you do that? This is just because you got a junker for a car, you can't wreck my car. And I started to hit him. And all of a sudden, this is this is what happens. Anyways, I thank you so much for being here. My dad doing this is what happens. Over the years, he mostly thought that what made his life was being around him, the ordinary people. And so there would be so many people to thank tonight for those who took care of him for years. And thanks for the messages about that. We move on to court file. I apologize about
Official proclamation. Thank you, Graham, for presenting your grandfather, Dr. Bill Packard, for accepting our newest member of the Wall of Pride, William C. Packard. And last but not least, good guy. Sheriff Jack York will present Kyle York.
To say it's a great honor to be here would be a complete understatement. To say it's a great honor to be Kyle's dad would be a complete understatement. But I just would like to recognize his family. His son, Gavin, who's here with us today, his sister, Jamie, his niece, Kearney, and the stalwart of our family, my wife, Bridget. Thank you for being here. The last time I was able to watch Kyle at an award ceremony was in Washington, D.C. a few years ago. The current governor's husband, who was the U.S. Attorney from Western New York, the former Director of Criminal Justice from New York City, Chauncey Parker, and many others were there to award Kyle for being one of the top law enforcement DEA agents of the year for the United States. With a career spanning over 3 decades in law enforcement, Kyle has demonstrated unparalleled courage and commitment, making significant sacrifices to ensure the safety and well-being of his fellow citizens. Kyle was born on January 5th, 1972, and graduated from Dansville High School in 1990. He earned his Bachelor of Science degree from SUNY Brockport in 1994, and then embarked on a path that would see him become one of the nation's most respected law enforcement officers. An honor today. His journey began as a deputy sheriff of Livingston County, where he established himself as the dedicated and capable deputy sheriff. His commitment to justice and exceptional skills soon led him to the Durham, North Carolina Police Department and Raleigh, North Carolina, where he served with distinction for over 30 years. Kyle's career is marked by his selflessness and bravery, particularly in his role as an undercover officer. When we talk about seizing ounces or pounds of drugs, he's talking about seizing tons and taking off drug cartels. Despite his immense personal sacrifices, Kyle remains steadfast in his duty, exemplifying the highest standards of law enforcement. His distinctive service does not go unrecognized. In 2011, Kyle received the Outstanding Task Force Commander Award, a testament to his leadership and effectiveness in managing complex and dangerous operations. His expertise and dedication culminated in his recognition as one of the top drug enforcement agents in the entire United States. In 2015, an honor that underscores his significant contributions to public safety. In addition to his hands-on work in the field, Kyle serves as a patrol officer, a senior investigator with Raleigh Office of Federal Drug Enforcement Administration. His exceptional service earned him numerous accolades in the respect of his peers. Even in retirement, Kyle's commitment to law enforcement remains unwavering. He serves currently as a civilian administrator at the Drug Enforcement Administration in Raleigh, and he continues to contribute his extensive knowledge and experience to enhance public safety across the United States. Kyle's life has been committed to protecting others. His bravery, his selfishness, and unwavering commitment to justice have left an indelible mark on the communities he served. Kyle's legacy reminds us of the extraordinary sacrifices made by those who have served in law enforcement. And if you don't think we're proud of him, you'd be mistaken. Thank you, Kyle.
Yes, you should go sit down, yes. Okay. Everybody can hear me? I don't do microphones, be very brief, but I am loud enough I think everybody can hear us. First off, I want to say thank you to the association, my friends and family, Jennifer, Tina, Patty, Rory, all, like everybody that went to the reunion last night. It was great to see everybody. Thank you very, very much. I didn't get into law enforcement necessarily to serve. I would say that if you ask the majority of the people that get in that profession, it's not about serving. It's about having fun, chasing bad guys. They can say it all day long that you get, ultimately it does commit to service and commitment and sacrifice and all those things, all the stuff my dad said. Yes, thank you very much. I don't think I deserve it because I work with 9 of the best investigators in the world who I would put up against anybody. And we spent, well, even to now, 23 years to work Mexican cartels. That's what we do. That was our focus. And the only thing that I want to talk about here, other than I'm going to pick on Coach here in just a second, if I can switch gears. He was never that funny when he was focused. When we would be all out there sweating our off. One more time. One more time. Brad remembers this. One more time. And he was never this funny. And you look great, Coach. Thank you. I will say this, and this, again, I'm going to be 30 more seconds. In that time frame of 21 years, I had to pull the stats. That group of guys seized $333 million U.S. currency, 18 planes, 32 yachts, 22 metric tons of cocaine, heroin, and methamphetamine, 1,300 arrests. I don't say that to brag, but that's what's in our country. Everybody needs to look out for each other, make sure that you check after your kids, make sure that you're paying attention to your grandchildren and what they're doing. I'm not saying this necessarily here in Dansville, but in the vast majority of our country, that's exactly what goes on every single day. You saw some of the pictures. I used to talk to my dad about this all the time. I'd send a picture like a trophy shot, like when we would get done doing a deal or an operation, and he wouldn't bleed for years. And I probably only sent him a tenth of what we've done. It's never about the individual, it's always about the team, and I have the greatest team in the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff York. Congratulations to Kyle, our newest member of the Dansville Wall of Pride. And maybe if he'd done it right the first time, he wouldn't have had to do it again. Thank you once again to the Dansville Wall of Pride class of 2025. David Gilbert, Bob Glover, William C. Packard, Kyle York, on your well-earned and well-deserved induction. Of course, we've got to take a few moments for additional thank yous. An important task to make sure everybody does this again next year. Today's ceremonies could not have happened without many great people. Rita Morrow and the Dansville School Food Service Department, Mike Birmingham, the Dansville Area Historical Society, the Seiler family, and the Dansville School Building and Ground Department. And a quick note, I intentionally omitted one name just to see if you're actually listening. Two more housekeeping items. In a moment, we would like our inductees and their presenters in front of our banner for a group picture after we break here. And then, following that photo, those who wish to participate in a brief tour of our facilities, including our first floor and our athletic facilities, Mr. Frazier, I believe, is going to meet you over here in the corner. Personally, I feel truly honored to be a part of the Dansville community, and I am proud to be associated with the school community. Serving as Master of Ceremonies this morning may be one of my greatest honors. Thank you for Dan Dixon being out of town today. But also thank you to Carrie Frazier, Sue Seiler, and Marcia Miller for thinking of me. And most importantly, thank you Kyle York, William C. Packard, Bob Glover, David Gilbert, for your contribution to a greater society, locally, across the country, and around the world, and for making Dansville proud. Have a great day, everyone. And if we could have our inductees and the presenters right here in front of the banner.
You're good. You're good. You're fine.
And then we also will be doing just the inductees, as my mother would say, if you're running out of exposures. Everybody? Yes? Not rushing, just asking.